Okay, so when the House of Lords comes up in the news, it's usually about appointments or expenses or, the whole unelected chamber thing. But today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a completely different story, a kind of hidden, accidental, and maybe, just maybe, vital job that it does.
Look, we all know the classic debate, right? Elected versus unelected. But let's just park that for a moment. We're going to explore this really fascinating idea. What if this ancient institution has accidentally stumbled into solving a very modern problem? A problem that the House of Commons, just by its nature, really can't solve on its own. And that problem? Well, it starts right here. It's a fundamental mismatch that sits right at the very heart of how we're governed.
So think of it like this. You've got two totally different clocks running at the same time. On one side, you have politics. It's fast, it's driven by these 5-year election cycles, and there's a ton of turnover. But on the other side, you've got these massive public systems that Parliament makes laws for, like the NHS or the courts. These things move slowly. They have decades of history built up, and they sure don't reset every time there's an election. So what you get is this knowledge gap. And here's the thing. This isn't some kind of failure of democracy. It's actually a feature, not a bug. The people in charge are supposed to change. But the side effect is that all that long-term, hard-won knowledge about how these huge systems actually work on the ground, well, it can just get lost in the shuffle.
And this, right here, is where the story gets really interesting, because that knowledge gap, it didn't stay empty. Without anyone planning it, the House of Lords started to fill that gap, pretty much becoming Parliament's unofficial accidental memory bank. So who are these people, these memory keepers? Well, they're people with deep, long-term experience. Think former health ministers, senior judges, top figures from defense. They get appointed to the Lords and, this is the key part, they stay there. Their value isn't some magical wisdom. It's that they've had the time to see what works, what absolutely doesn't, and most importantly, why. And this quote just nails it, doesn't it? This is their role in action. When a brand new bill shows up, full of fresh ideas, it's often a peer who can just pause the whole debate and say something like this. They're the ones who can remember a similar policy from, say, 15 years ago and explain all the messy, unintended things that happened. It's not about blocking progress, it's about making it smarter. There's actually a name for this whole process, reality checking. And this isn't about so-called experts telling politicians what to do. No, it's something much more subtle. It's about having the experience to spot the hidden traps, the unintended consequences. It's the ability to see how a perfectly neat idea on a spreadsheet might actually cause total chaos in a real-world hospital or police force. All right, so far, this all sounds pretty good, maybe even a clever solution. But, and this is a big but, there's a huge catch. Relying on a happy accident is a really, really risky way to run a country. And this line right here, this is the absolute heart of the problem. None of this was designed. The House of Lords wasn't set up to be a memory bank for Parliament. It just sort of happened. And whenever a critical function is accidental, it also means it's fragile. It's unreliable. And you can see the real-world consequences of relying on an accident, right? There's absolutely no guarantee that the right expert will be there at the right time for a crucial bill. You could have huge policy areas with no one to reality check them at all. And as these experienced people retire, that memory just fades away. Plus, because it's all so informal, it's really hard to explain or defend. It can just look like a bunch of insiders messing with things. Yeah, it really all boils down to this, doesn't it? Sometimes we get lucky. The perfect person with exactly the right experience is on the right committee at the right moment, and a bad law gets fixed. But when we're not lucky, that reality check never happens, and we all live with the consequences for years. Relying on luck is not a strategy. So all of this pushes us to ask a much, much bigger question. If this function, this institutional memory, is so valuable, should we really be leaving it to chance, to a system of appointments and inheritance? Or is there a better, more deliberate way to do this? It leaves us in this really weird spot, if you think about it. Our system implicitly relies on this institutional memory. We definitely benefit from it when it works, but as a country, we've never actually sat down and had a proper conversation about whether the House of Lords is the right place for it, or how we should formally protect this function for the future. You see, in the end, this conversation isn't really about defending the House of Lords as it is. It's about a fundamental challenge that faces any democracy, really.
how do we make sure the lessons of the past aren't just forgotten every single election cycle? How do we build a system that actually learns, that remembers, and that makes smarter decisions for the long haul? Now, that's the real question we need to answer.